pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction, which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing and all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Here.
Councilor Lenzi.
Here.
Councilor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Armand Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Milonazo.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Mayor Caulfield.
Here.
9 present.
Thank you. The chair would like to recognize Councilor James Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm requesting this evening that my colleagues have a moment of silence in darkened chambers for Ruth M. Qualey. Mrs. Qualey is a member of a well-known Lowell family. She's survived by 4 children. One of them is James Qualey, who was a distinguished Lowell firefighter and also a member of the former member of the Lowell Retirement Board. So, if we could stand in a moment of silence for Mrs. Qualey.
Let us rise
Thank
in a
you.
moment of silence with Dr. James. Thank you. Motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting and place them on file by Council Broderick, seconded by Council Milonazo. All in favor of accepting the minutes and placing them on file, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The minutes are accepted and placed on file. Communications from the city manager, Council Kazanjian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With the mayor and myself, we met with John Upham from Mass Electric on this past Friday, and on the reports that we had from the double poles. I think the mayor and I both learned something from Mr. Upham. There's approximately 432 poles that are around the city that have double poles, but they're not all belonging to Mass Electric. Mass Electric owns the poles. They've taken their wires off the poles, but we have 198 poles that the telephone company has not removed their wires, so we can't take the poles down until the telephone company removes their wires. Also, we have 57 poles out there that the cable company has not removed their wires yet, and we also have 123 from our own city here, from the fire alarm, that we have not removed our wires, so we can't remove those double poles. So that was approximately 9 o'clock. The mayor and I met with Mr. Upham. I had another meeting, but the mayor went on a road trip with Mr. Upham and went around the whole city and showed him the poles and the problems that we do have. And like I said, we did learn quite a bit. I was kind of surprised to find out that it's not all Mass Electric. Mass Electric actually only has 11 poles out there that have their wires on it that they have to remove. So basically, we have our own fire alarm system in the city here that has to remove 123, cable company with 57, and the telephone company with over 198 that we have. So, and that's pretty much it. If you want to take off from there, Mr. Mayor, I know you went around the city with Mr. Upham, so.
And if anyone else would like to have a comment on this particular issue, I know every council has been bringing this issue forward. I did go to Back Central Street with Mr. Upham and show him the pole that's 4 feet coming out of the sidewalk. He will remove that. We also went to Moore Street and showed him that pole. And there's many many utilities who have wires on that particular pole, but he's going to address that. But it really enlightened Councilor Kazanjian and I that we've been criticizing National Grid for years. They only own 11 of these problems. So we are going to plan, Councilor Kazanjian's subcommittee is going to have a meeting with Verizon and see if we can address this and once and for all clear it up. John Upham indicated, you'll never see a 0 on the list, because there's always gonna be poles being replaced and so forth. But I think at least we're making some headway with this, and National Grid was very responsive. They attended the meeting. John Upham was in City Hall before I was, and they want to work with us. And I think the council and the city wants to address this sore thumb, sore ride that we have in the city for so many years. Councilman Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm trying to find the legend for this report, which is actually pretty good to see that they actually track this and have a report. And at the back, it says, you know, a C means it's the transfer from the old pole to the new pole is completed. N is that they don't have wires attached to the pole, and they use the highly technical term B, which stands for ball in court, according to this. So am I to take from that where there's a B, that's the entity that's up next to get their wires off the pole, and these things go in sequence? You can't go we can't go to remove the fire until the electric's down, or the telephone company can't go until, you know, ours are down. So it looks, because no one has a B at the same time. So I guess, is that how I'm supposed to read this?
There is, sorry, Council, I can't really answer that, but...
Pretty much it, the way you explained it to me,
Yeah.
that's how it was. When you see a B that's balls in their court, they're the only wire that's left on that pole. Everybody else has been removed, and once they remove that wire, the telephone company, he said if the pole is not in the ground, the telephone company will have to remove that pole, but if it's still in the ground, Mass Electric will be responsible for moving that pole.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And actually, on Back Sumter Street, the president of the Portuguese Club came out and indicated, I'll cut the pole right at the level of the sidewalk. And John Upham said, go right ahead. I said, no, we don't want that. It's your pole, you take it out, and we'll fix the sidewalk after, because we'll end up with a rotted pole there for years to come. Councilor Elliott?
This is a good report. It tells us where the problems do lie. It's amazing how many double poles there continue to be in the city, and I appreciate the fact that National Grid has stepped up to identify and take some action steps. But, you know, to have that many by Verizon, I appreciate the fact that there'll be other meetings with Verizon and Comcast, because that's the shell game that we've been getting since I've been sitting here. National Grid says it's Verizon, Verizon says it's Comcast, and lo and behold, we still average between 300 and 400 double poles in the city. I don't understand why they can't do a better job, because they are eyesores, and they've been an eyesore for, you know, as long as we can remember. So is that the next meeting? Is this with the subcommittee with Verizon and
Yes,
and
Councilor.
Comcast?
And I think what National Grid has done here is they said, here, City Council, we're putting the ball in your court.
You're right.
Here's the list. And you can see who is the biggest violator is the telephone company. So Councilor Kazanjian is going to see if we can set up a meeting with the subcommittee and address this and do it in a very professional way, and get the telephone company and everyone who is a violation to address it, and we can get these poles down.
Yes, when the next couple of weeks, I'd like to see if I can get a subcommittee together and meet with Verizon and also the cable company, because they have 57 poles that we have to remove. So between the two of them, you know, we're looking over 250 poles that we can try to start working on, and we can ask them what kind of time frame we got to take care of this need. So yeah, well, the next couple of weeks we'll take care of that.
And you know, it's not that some of these poles are unsightly. Some of them are extremely dangerous. On Moore Street, if a youngster was riding a bicycle down the sidewalk, fell, there's some jagged edges of that pole sticking right into the sidewalk, and I know Councilor Mercy has brought this up many, many times, so.
Yeah, I can tell you along those lines, Mayor, there is a pole on the corner of Mammoth Road and VFW that has been sitting there before I've been sitting, and that's 11 years, and it's literally just leaning right up on the intersection light. So there are some priorities in the city, and it's, you know, maybe that's one that National Grid is taking their wires off, but it's a danger just being there. So thank you.
Any other discussion on this particular issue? If not, any other communications from Manager Lynch? Yes, Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to acknowledge the report that we received from the city manager on Councilor Kazanjian's report about the new businesses in the downtown. Currently serving as president of the Lowell Development and Financial Corporation, who actually does administer the Downtown Venture Fund. The report indicates that we've actually started 29 new businesses in the downtown. We've created close to 100 new jobs. The investment made by the local banks, made by the city through the Community Development Block Grant Program, as well as an insurance company, I believe the name is Life Initiatives, did go a long way to create new businesses in the downtown. So I think it's a good report. I think that the viewing audience should realize that the LDFC is doing yeoman's work, in my opinion, to try to attract businesses, again, working in partnership with the city, especially the Planning and Development Office.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other discussion on communications? Accept the communications and place them on file by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Kazanjian. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The communications are placed on file. We have two requests for out-of-state travel. I believe one is from the Health Department, one is from the Fire Department. Any discussion? Any questions? Roll call.
Counselor Elliott?
Yes.
Counselor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Counselor Lenzi?
Yes.
Counselor Martin?
Yes.
Counselor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Counselor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Counselor Milonazo?
Yes.
Counselor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Before I proceed with the agenda, I just want to let the council know and the viewing audience know that after we go through the agenda, I would ask for suspension of the rules so that Trinity Financial could come to the podium and address the Hamilton Canal issues with you, and the viewing audience at home can see that as well. So I'll look for a motion to suspend the rules, okay? Moving on with the agenda. Acceptance of Independence Drive, Freedom Way, and Patriot Way to take by eminent domain in fee a certain parcel of land in the city of Lowell for the municipal purposes, to wit, the layout and acceptance of Independence Drive, Freedom Way, and Patriot Way, and other municipal purposes associated therewith. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Kazanjian, seconded by Councilor Elliott. All in favor of waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The full reading is waived. Second reading by title. To take by eminent domain in fee a certain parcel of land in the city of Lowell for municipal purposes, to wit, the layout and acceptance of Independence Drive, Freedom Way, and Patriot Way, and other municipal purposes associated therewith. Any discussion, any questions? If not, roll call. I'm sorry. Give first reading, refer to the hearing April 1st. April 1st, okay? Any discussion of sending that to the public hearing April 1st? Okay, thank you. Subcommittee reports. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. The Finance Subcommittee, there was a joint meeting between the Finance Subcommittee this evening and the School Building Construction Subcommittee to discuss motion that was referred regarding the Riley School and the boiler replacement. The manager did give the subcommittee an update on the boiler costs and the time frame. Currently, there is a temporary boiler that is that is providing heat to the school, and it is working in a satisfactory manner. TJ McCarthy indicated that the boiler is on a trailer, and it'll continue to operate until a permanent boiler is installed, and they're in the process of developing bids and costs for that particular construction project. Further discussion also took place on other items that are required by the school. A study was done, by the school committee that listed all of the needs of all of the school buildings, capital needs. Council Martin's going to get a copy for the subcommittee, or the entire council, to take a look at those capital projects that are in immediate need. Interestingly enough, it was noted that the Riley School was not on the top of the list, but there are some other projects that still need to be done. The manager also provided a capital plan that was referred to the subcommittee, which generated a fair amount of discussion. particularly in light of all of the items that are on there that are needed that reference the school. So there was also a short discussion on FY09 budget. The manager is in the process of putting together the budget, and we did receive some preliminary numbers on local aid, but he hasn't put together the final budget. Was it early May, Mr. Manager, that you'll be presenting the budget to the council?
Early to mid-May.
Early
I think
to mid-May.
Counselor, I anticipate that we'll have this about the same schedule we had last year, so presented in mid-May, and with hope that the council can take action on it by the end of May.
In reference to the capital plan, Mr. Moses, the manager, also indicated that we do retire, this year we're going to retire approximately $9 million in debt. Of that approximate $9 million, approximately $5 million of that is reimbursements from the state. So the actual retirement of city dollars, approximately around $4 million. So there is a capital plan in place that will address the Riley School, the roof at the Riley School, as well as some other items, but we're going to get into further discussion at the next Finance Subcommittee to specifically address the capital plan that was presented just this evening. So that was a report of progress. So I'm sure there's some other comments or concerns that were discussed. Members of the Finance Subcommittee as well as the School Building Construction Committee were there, and it was a good discussion, and it was a good prelude to discussions that will take place on those needs that we have, those unfortunately that have been neglected due to other projects in the city, whether it's the arena or the library or a whole slew of other projects that we have dedicated money. But now the focus has to shift back on some of the schools that were built 10, 12 years ago that now are requiring attention. So not great news, but we are on top of, we're on top of this plan, and we have to continue to start to invest in some of those areas that we haven't focused on in the future. So that's that's a report of progress, Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Council Broderick and then Council Rita Mercia.
Thank you. That was an excellent report, and I think it was emphasized at the meeting that it's critical that we do get a capital plan in place and start to make the investment in the maintenance, because, as was brought up by Councilor Kazanjian, that if this had been replaced or fixed over the summer, we would have saved the money that we ate in the inefficiency, but also the temporary heat. As we found out, the schools had this ranked in their second category of needs, which was about approximately $1.5 million below other needs. So there were obviously some significant needs the city's for the infrastructure of the city, and to the tune of $200 million. Obviously, we can't do that all at once. We're going to have to prioritize and try and do it as we retire debt, continue to take on more to maintain the infrastructure. I just think I think everybody congratulated Assistant City Manager McCarthy for getting that up and running, the heat for the teachers and the students, and under the circumstances, I think the administration and Mr. McCarthy handled it well, and hopefully in the future we can nip these things in the bud and correct them in a more efficient manner as we start to reinvest. Thank you.
Council Rita Mercia.
I don't have a comment on this subcommittee.
You don't. Council Kazanjian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, it was a joint subcommittee with the Finance Subcommittee and also the
Right.
School Subcommittee, and Councilor Elliott gave a great report. Manager promises this won't happen again. As far as if something's on the fence where we have a question as far as a boiler that might need replacing, we'll do that in the summertime, make sure it doesn't break down like this one did for the Riley. And also, I did mention to the manager, as far as possibly giving us that list of vacant buildings and vacant land where we could maybe turn around and possibly sell it. I know the markets is bad out there, but something is better than nothing, and we can take this property and turn it back on a tax roll and use whatever money we get from this property and put it into the capital plan and get these buildings squared away if we can.
Right.
So, thank you.
Any other comments about this particular issue? I just want to comment that any old urban city such as Lowell in the Commonwealth probably has a $200 million figure on capital plans and restructuring. The clue to that whole plan, where do you find the money to make that happen. Accept the report as a report of progress by Council Jim Milanazzo, seconded by Council Armand Mercier, and place it on file. Report's been accepted and placed on file. Moving on with the agenda. City of Lowell, Commonwealth.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor?
I'm sorry. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, some time ago, when we had out-of-state travel, it seemed that we, as a council, asked that whoever went on out-of-state travel provided some sort of a report for that. And I know from time to time, people go on different seminars and training, and they do put it in our packet, and we see their report and what they've learned and everything. And so who would I be to request that, you know, people in City Hall do it, but yet I don't do it? So I'd just like to provide an oral report of the out-of-state travel to Cape Kennedy, representing you, Mr. Mayor, at the Space Shuttle Endeavour's liftoff, an historic event of a lifetime, one that I will cherish always. I was honored to be there representing the mayor, this council, and the city of Lowell to complement the invitation that was sent on behalf of our native-born Lowellian, who is very proud of his roots. How honored this city should be to know that one of the 7 astronauts to venture on this extraordinary mission is one of our very own, and to think that he took the time to invite you, Mr. Mayor. Just think if no one showed up, what would that say for Lowell? I got on board a shuttle bus en route to Nassau at 11 p.m. at night, Monday night. Upon entering Cape Canaveral Complex, we were given a talk as to where different shuttles were launched and who was on them, as well as the building where they were suited up. We learned that it took 2.5 hours for this crew to get buttoned up and strapped in. We were then transported to a great viewing site 3 miles away from the actual liftoff site to view the launch at Cape Kennedy Space Center, which was scheduled at 2:28 a.m. on Tuesday. We were told that there is a tremendous amount of noise when the astronauts arrive at the launch site, that one of them said that it feels like the shuttle is actually alive. There was a brief reception and a briefing conducted by NASA's Deputy Administrator, Shana Dale. We learned that this mission was a joint venture between Japan, Canada, and the United States. While at the briefing, we not only learned the purpose of this mission, which was attaching the hands to the 11-foot arms of the 12-foot robot Dexter, designed to replace space-walking astronauts, but we were given an overview of each of the 7 astronauts who are on this STS-123 flight, a mission that will deliver the Japanese logistics module and Canadian special purpose dexterous manipulator to the International Space Station. As each astronaut's biography was introduced, you could see the pride in the faces of each guest that represented that individual astronaut. When they got to Richard Linehan, our delegation busted out with verbal pride, and the whole room applauded and joined our excitement and pride. Lowell finally made it big in the world of science and technology. Guests of the astronauts were assigned special seats, and we were all individually introduced. I joined Mayor Tom Menino of Boston, Congressman Patrick Kennedy, senators and state reps from all the astronauts' respective states, like Louisiana, New Jersey, Missouri, Ohio, the United Kingdom, and Tokyo, Japan. What if no one came from Lowell? What message would that send to Nassau and to Dr. Linehan? Everyone else was highly represented. At a few minutes to 2:28 a.m., we were ushered onto the 5th floor OSB-2 viewing balcony to view the launch of the STS-123 Shuttle Endeavour, and it proceeded exactly on time. The noise did not reach us for 16 seconds, and a flood of fire that lit up the sky like daylight, and a rattle that shook the earth, which was enough to bring tears of overjoyment to people's eyes. Everyone was filled with emotion as this historic event took place. We were advised previously before the launch that the hazards are inherent in viewing a space shuttle launch, including debris, blasts, and toxic exhaust clouds containing droplets of hydrochloric acid. If the winds were traveling in our direction, we would have to view it from an inside enclosure. But there was no wind, and we saw it outside, up close and personal. This was an experience I will never forget. I want to thank you, Mayor Caulfield, Manager Lynch, and this council for the vote to allow me to represent them and this great city. Although my visit will not generate millions of dollars in return, it will possibly provide an opportunity to connect with Nassau and develop a relationship for Dr. Lenahan to visit here and talk to our school children. I met him on 2 other occasions previously in the past, and he is no stranger to Lowell. Finally, I want to thank radio station WCAP 980 for their concern in providing me an interview shortly thereafter the liftoff on their morning show with Jack Baldwin, Teddy Panis, and Bernice Capoose, and especially to the Boston Globe reporter who called me the Sunday before I left, and he was just as excited for Lowell as I was. That's what Lowell is all about, people who put people on the map and the people who are honored by it. Thank you very much for this experience.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yeah, thank you. I want to go over, last week we have a report from the subcommittee for the arena, Songus Arena. We talked about that last Tuesday, and I haven't given a report. I just want to give a brief report
Go ahead.
of what transpired. Last Tuesday, we had a report on we had subcommittee for the Songus Arena. We had Craig Gates there from SMG. We also had Chris Ciceri from the Lowell Devils. The manager was there, myself, and a few of the councilors, Councilor Elliott, Councilor Lindsay, and a few others were there. And we discussed, Councilor Mercier was on vacation, so he couldn't make it there. Councilor Armin Mercier? Yeah, I was. Okay. But anyways, we talked in length for a good hour and a half, and I was really disappointed. The hour and a half we talked about, the Devils are saying they're doing this, but talking to the city manager, they have the worst attendance in the league. So they're like I said, they're talking about how much they're doing to bring attendance in here, and they've been discussing this and talking this even prior to that when we had a subcommittee back in December before I was on board here, and I sat down here, and I think Councilor Elliott brought it forward, and they stated the same thing, that they're doing this, they're doing that, and come to find out they have the worst attendance in the league. Also, SMG is stating that they're doing whatever they can possibly do to make it work, and I really feel that neither one is doing the proper work that they should be doing to make that arena work the way it should be. We still have a $1.2 million deficit there, and the taxpayers are paying for that. And here we are, we got 2 organizations, I don't think they're cutting the mustard and making it work. And like I said, I was disappointed. They talked about what we're doing and they didn't tell us what they're going to do to improve it. You know, so like I said, I was disappointed in what they were telling us, and I know we have some contracts coming up within the next couple of months. Is that correct, Mr. Manager? And we have some, hopefully, would change things around to make it work. But that's basically it, and I'm sure some of the other councilors can add to what I just mentioned and
Councilor Broderick?
go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was unable to make the meeting. I was wondering, I just had a quick question. What contracts, I know we have more than one that are coming up in these city-owned buildings. Which ones is it SMG?
SMG and Boston, the Boston concessions, Boston.
Both in the arena?
Yes.
Okay. Are you, and again, this is going to, it may be a repetitive question, because I think I asked you this at a meeting maybe a month or 2 ago. Who negotiates this? Is this your office, the Arena Commission, or a combination?
It's more of a combination than anything else. I work in consultation with the Arena Commission, but primarily it's the Arena Commission that's responsible for those contracts.
And do we send these contracts, or do we send them out to bid?
Yes, they are being put up. Right now, the status is that the requests for proposals are being drafted up. We had interestingly, we had a meeting that day with the Arena Commission before I came over for the subcommittee meeting, which I agree with Councilor Kazanjian. I thought it was an excellent meeting. We've got some good information, and I share the disappointment that, particularly with the Devils, that more hasn't been done to bolster that attendance. But clearly, we need to do something too to get other events happening there, and SMG is obviously responsible for that. But we're doing the RFPs. I asked the Arena Commission to put a little bit different spin on how we put those out to bid this year, to see if we can put more in the way of incentives in place for, particularly for SMG to bring more in terms of revenue and to the city, or at least decrease the amount of deficit that we have in that operation. So those will be put out on the street hopefully within the next couple of weeks, and then we'll be bringing that back. And I think we have another subcommittee meeting planned, at which the Arena Commission will be in attendance.
Does the council have anything to do with those RFPs?
They will have to. They will not necessarily the RFPs, but they will have to approve the contracts.
Okay, but nothing to do with what goes out, what we're asking for?
I don't believe so. No.
All right, thank you.
Councilor Elliott?
Thank you. That was a good report by Council Kazanjian. It was a lengthy meeting. In some respects, it was a productive meeting because I certainly learned a lot about the operation. I learned more about the operation of the arena and the challenges that we face. We talk about a $1.2 million operating deficit. That doesn't include the capital, the debt and interest on, on the arena. It also doesn't include the fact that we're not spending any money. We talked about, this capital plan that we have tonight with the schools and fire, the buildings, fire buildings, and so many other of our capital assets in the city. That report doesn't include a nickel, and we haven't put anything into the arena. And, it's a problem. It's becoming a problem, or it is a problem. So on top of the annual operating deficit, I think it's important that we continue to meet, and I believe we have set up another meeting, haven't we, Council Kazanjian?
I think we set up a meeting for 3 weeks from that date with the Arena Commission, the Devils, SMG, and also the subcommittee.
And UMass? Was
Right.
UMass invited?
I'm not sure which.
Well,
we-
They're on the
Arena-
arena. Right, okay. But, the bottom line is, we've got to close that gap. I know the manager's been speaking about performance contracts with SMG. And, and we were very frank with the Devils, and they were here. They answered a lot of questions. They spoke of a lot of the scheduling issues. We understand that, as well as SMG. Mr. Gates indicated that this past weekend there was a concert at the arena. Between concessions, novelties, and ticket sales, I think the city was going to reap, I want to say, around $80,000 from those two. It was net, which is a good thing. That's what we need more of. Unfortunately, between hockey games and hockey schedules, that consumes a lot of the time that we would have available to to fill the arena. So it's the other thing that we did request was a report on. We learned from the solicitor that there's part of the contract includes a revenue sharing plan, and at the $3 million threshold, or $3 million gross receipts, I believe, gross revenue receipts, the city starts to get some money back. The manager indicated between $3 and $4 million, it's an additional $25,000. But the subcommittee wanted to get a copy of those financials because we haven't seen them. I don't know, maybe the Arena Commissioner has seen them, but I think it's time for us to see what do they get from ticket sales, what do they get from advertising revenue, what do they get from concessions, to find out, because we've got to get some more money somewhere. So it is frustrating, but we're looking at the Boston concession contract that the manager's going out with an RFP. That's a step in the right direction, but in the short term, closing that gap. I know the manager mentioned looking at a NBA development league, or just trying to utilize the space a little bit better, because it seems that hockey is having a difficult time. Councilor Kazanjian mentioned it. It's the lowest attendance in the league out of 29 teams. Now that doesn't mean the Devils aren't trying. Just don't know if hockey is a difficult sell, particularly with UMass and the Monarchs, and we know the whole story. So it was a good report. I look forward to meeting again and trying to find ways to close that deficit. So,
Councilor
Mr.
Lindsay,
Mayor.
then
Thank you.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Thank you. I also thought it was a good meeting, and I think that all the subcommittee meetings that I've attended have been exceptional meetings, and that a lot of information comes out of it, and people are very candid, and this one was no different. I believe that SMG and the Devils have a relationship that needs some additional communication between the parties. There were some issues that they were aware of on certain instances, and maybe felt that they didn't communicate on other instances where it would have been to the benefit of the city or to both organizations if that they had had better communication. Councilor Elliott mentioned the concerts, and we learned certainly that night that the concerts are our bread and butter, so to speak. They bring in far more revenue than any of the events that take place at the Tsongas Arena presently. The ability to go after additional concerts is hindered by the practice schedules and the game schedules of the hockey teams, and it limits us apparently in pursuing those concerts and those names. Also brought up at the meeting was the fact that for the Folk Festival, the arena is kind of put aside as a venue in case of inclement weather, and you know, we addressed the fact that maybe we bring in a big name person for a concert when we have 100,000 people in the city, either on a given night or several nights. And I think that that was going to be addressed with the Folk Festival Committee to see if that would be a possibility. Again, it was very concerning that there is not a capital plan. The building is 11 years or so old, and we know that there's some concerns about the ice, and that you know, it's not too far down the line that we'll be needing to address those things. So again, it was another good meeting. It brought out a lot of information, and once again, it was candid, and both parties got to speak about you know, where they're coming from. But I know that the Devils are competing with the Patriots and the Red Sox, and those teams aren't going away. So that's going to continue to be a problem in the future, you know, coming up. And I don't know what the answer is to competing with those major league teams. Thank you.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Thank you, Mayor. We also talked about naming rights, and it's not to do away with the Tsongas name. It would be like I threw out Motorola at the Tsongas Arena, keeping, you know, Paul Tsongas' name alive, which I think everybody wants to do, but put something with that name and see if we can generate some type of income by doing that. Also, I just want to talk to the manager about that, the Devils contract. Is there any type of performance in that contract there? If they don't perform to a certain point, this contract can be null and void, or is it pretty much they can run the way they want and that's it?
Basically, yes. There is some language that we've looked at in the past, council and the administration, regarding their marketing that they're required to do, or it references that they're to do a certain level of marketing, but that isn't quantified in any way, and there's no description of what action can be taken if they don't do the marketing. So it's pretty open-ended, but there is no. They're essentially a tenant of the city, and they pay us the rent of, start at $150,000 a year. I got that up to $275,000, but there's no performance standards.
So we're basically stuck to them to what, 2010, you said, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and I feel that they are a big, big part of the problem, and I feel you probably think the same way, that they're not doing enough to get the attendance the way it should be. Because I know the Lock Monsters, when the Lock Monsters were there, I know it was a local-owned individual, but at least attendance was there. They had the 2,500 to 3,000 people there, and that generates money from the city with the tickets, the parking, and whatever else went for the city. So,
correct.
And we're not getting that extra revenue that we had before. So, thank you.
Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, did I hear you correctly? I know, at least I think I know, the Arena Commission has the responsibility to hire the manager and go through this RFP process, but I don't think they have any staff. So even though it's their responsibility, I think they should be relying on the city for some help and at least some input and guidance there.
Right.
So the bills do come here at the
Correct.
end. So I assume they're receptive to your suggestions?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Right. I don't want to be, I don't want any misunderstandings on that. Both the solicitor and I meet with them at each of their meetings, and we're involved in all of that process of drafting up the RFPs and reviewing the contracts and providing them with the guidance based upon the direction that they set.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on this report? I just briefly want to say a few things. Councilor Gazanjian and I were at the Lowell High School Central Catholic Basketball Championship. There were 6,500 people in attendance. And there were 6,500 people in attendance prior to the high school game. And I believe the arena is really a diamond in the rough. We're not culturing it enough. And according to Craig Gates, there was more people and more money spent at the arena, the MIA basketball championship games, than 10 or 15 hockey games. So the arena is a viable entity in the city. And I think what the subcommittee is trying to bring about is let's not change direction, but let's make those entities go to the arena and produce what we're looking for. And I was sitting with Brian Martin and his dad. And I was excited because there were so many people there enjoying themselves, enjoying a fantastic high school basketball game. And the arena was doing what it was meant to do. Put people in there and enjoy themselves. The restaurants downtown all day long were thriving because of those basketball games. And I would imagine, Councilor, if the folk committee decided to bring in a name act for the arena, Mr. Councilor Lindsay, that would attract more people into our city. So, accept the reporter's report of progress and place it on file by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Rita Mercia. The report's been accepted and placed on file. I would just like to go back to the report that Councilor Rita Mercia presented to the council. First of all, Councilor, I and the council were proud to have you represent this city and this council, the Kennedy Space Center. And as I talked to the manager, this will bring dividends to the city. The mayor's office now has contacts with NASA. We know who the contact person is, and I'm practically sure if we placed that call, we would have a representative from the Kennedy Space Center or astronaut Linehan come to our schools, especially the middle schools, and discuss this exciting thing that he just did with the science classes of our school. It will pay dividends, and we were honored for you to go, and we want to thank you that you did go. Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Accept the report from Councilor Rita Mercia. It's the report of progress and place it on file by Councilor Armin Mercia, seconded by Councilor Martin. All in favor, signify by saying aye. The report has been accepted and placed on file. Moving on with the agenda. City of Lowell, Commonwealth of Massachusetts report, Department of Public Works, Division of Streets and Highways, and Superintendent of Wires, National Grid and Verizon New England Incorporated, Maury Street, pole location approximately is shown on plan. Accept and adopt the accompanying orders by Councilor Kazanjian, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And we have a petition, Sammy's Pizzeria and Grill, 125 Merrimack Street, request overhanging sign, referred to the Law Department by Councilor Armin Mercia, seconded by Councilor Lindsay. We have a request from Stacy Phillips, 37 Whipple Street, request handicap sign, refer to traffic engineer by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Elliott. All in favor, signify by saying aye. And we have 5 claims referred to the Law Department by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Those are on their way to the Law Department. We have one motion by my good friend, Councilor Lindsay. Motion by Councilor Lindsay, request that the City Council take the necessary action to amend the council rules to meet every other Tuesday throughout the year, seconded by Councilor Armin Mercia on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I got a message on my voicemail today, and it was one of my aunts, and they asked me if I had any interest in getting reelected when they read the motion. But this is not a selfish motion. You know, something that I've looked at from my seat for the past 3 months after getting on the council, and it kind of has the same philosophy as the biweekly payroll. It's, I don't think this is a big money saver. I think this motion is a productivity enhancer. And, you know, I've been at the meetings, and there's a lot of work to do each and every week to prepare for these meetings, and it's done by the law department, the administration, and a lot of people behind the scenes. And it seems to me that we've had a couple lengthy meetings, but mostly short, compact meetings with good content. The idea of having a meeting every other week seems to take the place of these, let me just say that the subcommittee meetings prior to the council meetings. Usually they're a half an hour in length, and I know a lot of phrases that I hear during the subcommittee meetings, which I think, once again, to reiterate, have been excellent, have been candid, have given the opportunity for both sides of an issue to express their opinions, and people have attended them and come and spoke about things they feel strongly about. But one of the phrases that I hear during these subcommittee meetings is, can you be brief? We're running short on time. Can we put this, you know, off to the next meeting? And I think that's unfortunate, because those meetings, there's a lot of substance to them and a lot of good things coming out of them, and we do have to cut people short, and some people probably don't even have an opportunity to speak. So my thought was that if the council meetings occurred every other Tuesday, it would give us an opportunity to have these subcommittee meetings on those off Tuesdays, and there would not be any time constraints, such as is the case now. So that's what my thoughts were, and it's not from a counselor looking at a counselor, it's from a counselor looking at what goes into each and every meeting on a weekly basis. I suppose if I can go food shopping every other week and buy enough for both weeks, I do it. To have to go down to the grocery store sometimes can be burdensome, and when you do it on a weekly basis. And just, I know this motion was made back in the 1990s by Councilor Peter Richards, and that was just about the time when the meetings were going to be televised, and there was also 12 other motions, people tell me, by Mr. Richards that night, or Councilor Richards, and 42 motions on the agenda for that evening. So things have changed quite a bit, and I think with change, the council changed, and structures change, and other things change, and the subcommittees seem to be an awful important part of this process, and something that people want to participate in. And to see them cut short, I thought was an injustice to them and us, and I thought that this might act as a remedy. So I ask for your consideration.
Council Rita Mercier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My comments do not reflect the fact that I have the greatest respect for the maker of this particular motion. However, I did not support this motion 13 years ago, and I can't support it today. If it were to save money or whatever, that'd be great, but I don't know how it's going to do that. I understand what you're saying about the subcommittee meetings. How does the benefit outweigh the fact that I personally feel it's another step towards removing ourselves from the public? That's my opinion. When you hear people say, gee, is this Tuesday that they're going to be on TV? Or, oh, no, forget it. No, is it last week, or is it next week? Forget it, I won't even listen. And we're removing that person, and then another person. And it's tough enough in the summer when people don't get this schedule straight. And in the summer, when we are on a biweekly schedule, we at times are here very, very long hours, and I don't think you realize that because you haven't seen the summer yet. Sometimes we do have 25 motions. Sometimes we are here quite late. I know that's our job, but I'd rather do a little at a time than to ram it all in at once. That's my opinion. I know that this motion will go to the Rules Subcommittee probably. I don't even think that I have the support for defeating it. But I want you to know that the majority rules here, so whatever happens, I'm gonna support it. That's the democracy that we're in. I just like to be here every week. I just like to. I really don't even care for the summer schedule. I really like to be here every week and do what we need to be done and get it over with. And I can't wait 2 weeks. I don't know. Maybe it's a women thing. I don't know. But I respect you. I respect that you brought that up, but I don't support it. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Counsel Broderick?
Thank you. I'm not sure if it's going to go to the subcommittee or not either, but I have a similar position as Councilor Rita Mercia in terms of, I understand the motion, and maybe it should go to the subcommittee to get some feedback from the manager in terms of how much time is spent on a weekly basis preparing for the meetings, how much staff time. My sense is that it's going to be spent, whether it's once a week or extra time every 2 weeks, or getting things prepared for extra long subcommittee meetings every Tuesday night. I think that obviously the city council has a few roles in setting policy and overseeing the manager. We have the benefit of either being able to pick up the phone, send an email, or see the manager to discuss and find out what's going on. One thing about the meetings, and I have been through the summer schedule a couple times, and one thing about the meetings is this is the public's opportunity to find out what's going on. And there is a lot going on. We have budget coming up. We're going to have we're going to see a presentation in a few minutes on the Hamilton Canal. It is slow right now, but I do remember the summer, aside from it being 95 degrees in here, going every 2 weeks is quite some time. You know, you can lose a step as you're trying to get back into it, coming back after 2 weeks. I don't dislike having a week off, and I know that's not the intent of this motion, but I think that what will happen is we'll fill up the Tuesday nights, and right now we have Tuesday night before the meeting, but we also have Monday. I believe next week we have a subcommittee meeting Monday night, and I know the Personnel Subcommittee is meeting Wednesday night. So there is ample opportunity. We corrected the problem with LTC, I believe, about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, in terms of being able to schedule them, get them televised, and maybe it is fitting to go to the Rules Subcommittee, but I just think that if you look at the agenda and see what takes up the time, the manager's portion is going to be there every week or every 2 weeks, regardless. This is his job. That's his agenda he's putting forward for us to review and vote on. The reports, subcommittee reports, we're going to do that. We may have more of them now. And petitions, those come from outside. They are what they are. The motions, if we're looking to eliminate some of the burden on the administration and the staff, is maybe we could look at not doing as many redundant motions or similar motions. That's where I believe the administration is generating work. I know they have staff meetings that they'll have one tomorrow morning to review what was done today. Okay, what do we need to get? Yep, you work on this motion, you work on that motion. Update this report that was done 6 months ago. And we need these updates. But I think most of the work is generated by us. And if we go 2 weeks, I know those meetings will last longer than 2 weeks back to back. I know we've been here for 3-4 hours in the summer, and they're going quick now. I think that's a good sign. I think it's a sign that the city, the administration, is taking us in the right direction. We're letting them take us in that direction and overseeing it properly, and at the same time keeping our constituents informed. You know, talking to business people, board of directors meet, no more than once a month. Well, this is not just a corporation. These aren't shareholders that get an annual report. These are constituents that look forward to seeing what's going on. They want to know what's happening. Quite frankly, on a day-to-day basis, we all get stopped. What's happening with this? What's happening with that? That's where these motions come from. People that want to know what's going on, what's happening with their tax dollars. I just think that it's important to stay current. There are things that are brought up, and we suspend the rules weekly because something happened over the weekend, and the council feels the need to have something addressed immediately. And I think that we're going to lose some of that responsiveness, and I think that I understand the intent behind it. like to see, some more, maybe some more information as to how it really will impact or streamline from the administration side. But I think from our side, we have a public that whoever does watch this is watching it for a reason. They want to know what's going on, and that's a good thing. And there's a lot of things going on, in a lot of good things, and I think that this is part of promoting it. I just think that I understand the motion, and at this time I wouldn't support it. It may already have the votes. I don't know if it's going to go to the Rules Subcommittee to get reports, but in any event, I've said my piece, and we'll see what happens. Thank you.
Council Kosangian.
Thank you, Mayor. I am going to support the motion, and I would like to see it referred to a subcommittee also. When I first ran, I made the commitment that I'm going to run and be a city councilor, support the people, and be here every Tuesday. And that's my intent, to be here every Tuesday, whether we go every other week on a council meeting, and the off week we go with a subcommittee. I have no problem. I'm going to be here regardless. Every Tuesday I will be here. I'll be here for a subcommittee, or I'll be here for the full meeting. So to me itself, it doesn't make a hill of beans for me. It just seems to me that Councilman Leslie brought up a pretty good point, I should say a very good point, that our subcommittees are always cut short. We're always rushing because we don't have enough time, don't have enough people to speak, because we come into that time period, and sometimes we go into the time period of the meetings. And I think last week we were here for the arena. We didn't get done for that subcommittee the 6:45, and I think we could have gone longer. So we did cut it short. It was, like we said, a productive meeting, but, and this is what's been happening since I've been on, and I haven't dealt with every other week meeting, so I don't know what that would do to us. I have no problem staying 3-4 hours. It's not going to really cut any amount of time if we do it this way here. I mean, if we're going to go every other week, instead of being here an hour and a half or 2 hours one night, it's going to be here for 4 hours another night. So, like I said, I have no problem. I'm going to support it, but I'm going to be here regardless every Tuesday, whether it's a subcommittee or whether it's a regular meeting. And so it really doesn't make a hill of beans to me. I think you just brought up a good point where we get our subcommittees are so productive, we get a lot out of it, that we can go longer. Instead of that 1 hour, we can go an hour and a half to 2 hours if we have to, or possibly have 2 subcommittees that same night, whatever the case may be. Thank you.
Council Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As chairman of the Rules Subcommittee, I hope my colleagues actually do send it to the Rules Subcommittee, because I, too, would like to get more information from the administration as to what other, say, planning form of government, cities or communities actually do with their board of directors. Do they meet weekly or every other week? I, along with some comments that Councilor Kosangian just made, again, I plan to be here every Tuesday. As most of my colleagues know, I attend most of all of the subcommittee meetings, even the subcommittee meetings that the mayor has not assigned me to. So I certainly plan to be here on the off Tuesdays when there are subcommittee meetings. And again, I just firmly believe that the subcommittee meetings seem to be more productive. We just seem to get more done. Clearly, from the standpoint of the city council, we obviously have formal votes, and we'll certainly have formal votes and recommendations to the full council. But I just think we'll be able to get the people's work done on those off Tuesdays as well as a regular Tuesday, the way it's set up now. So I'm looking forward to have it be referred to the Rules Subcommittee along with my colleagues, Councilor Rita Mercier and Councilor Armin Mercier, who serve on the Rules Subcommittee as well. So I'm hoping that the council refers it to the subcommittee.
Thank you. Anyone else like to discuss this? Councilor Armin
Just
Mercier?
want to remind my colleagues, the last time we sent something to the Rules Committee, we lost the Our Father. First of all, I think the intent here is very clear and very honorable. Most of the business of this city council seems to, in the last few years, rest with the subcommittees. And the subcommittees are pressed for time when they have them on a Tuesday because there's a city council meeting. I think that if we structured this in a way where everybody would be working every Tuesday, it's just that I think it would be more productive to have one Tuesday set aside for the subcommittees to meet, where the people can watch what the subcommittee is doing at the regular hour of 6:30 instead of 4 o'clock or 4:30 and rushing through it. So I think if it sets aside a Tuesday for the subcommittee meetings, I think it makes an awful lot of sense. I think it's more efficient and be more productive. So I support it also, but if it does go to the Rules Subcommittee, I'll have more to say then. Thank you.
Councilor Mann?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a good motion, and I'm going to support it. You know, I think Councilor Lindsay's description of this as a productivity enhancer is a good one. I think, I know the manager spends a good part of his week first in preparation for this meeting, and wrap up following that. And I think it can, and then we complain, you know, why aren't the union contracts done? Why isn't the contract with Trinity Financial done? Why isn't our 5-year capital plan done? What's taking so long about that? When are we going to get the budget? Those things take time away from this meeting. And I know it's not the manager's idea to do this, but we're not working in a vacuum here. You know, we've had the summer schedule the whole time I've been here. And as far as I know, the city has continued to run, and really without too much interruption. Yes, the meetings go later, but I've been here now more than 8 years, and I think we have an 11 o'clock curfew. We've never hit the curfew once since I've been here. And I've only missed one meeting in 8 years, something I'm very proud of, and I don't see this really as something that's going to diminish the workload, quite frankly. It won't. I think we have seen an expansion of the role of the subcommittees in recent years, and I think that's good because I think it gives the council a chance to delve into an issue in depth without having competing agenda items. I know when I chaired the zoning subcommittee, I bet we met for 100 hours going through that. It's just something you couldn't do at a council meeting like this, and I see other subcommittees getting involved in that to the same extent. And I don't think either that we're shutting out the public. I think the public has more access to this council than it's ever had. I think, you know, the subcommittee meetings are on TV now. I think that's a good thing, and it gives people an opportunity to see the council in action and ask, you know, in-depth questions on an issue and not be too worried about getting on to the next item. So I think it's a good idea. I'm going to support it. I don't see the need necessarily to send it to the rules subcommittee, but if that's the wish of the council, we can do that, and I'll support it there and when it comes back.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the motion. I happen to agree with my colleagues, Council Broderick, Council Mercia. I happen to think people like to keep connected, and watching Tuesday night is their way of doing so. And I do understand that we do a lot of work in subcommittees, and it is time-consuming. But I happen to think by making government more transparent, by making it more accessible, by virtue of people being able to just turn on the television and watch what's going on in the government, is something that they like. It's certainly something they have expressed to me that they appreciate, and it's a way for them to stay tuned. I think in the summertime we go to every other week schedule after we get the budget done, because things do tend to quiet down a little bit, and there are some times here on the council that maybe our agendas are short. There are also some times when they're quite lengthy, and we have a number of items on the agenda. I just happen to think that it's a good routine. It's a good good way to probably keep myself on a schedule and to keep us abreast of the issues and to stay on top of them, because it is, you know, it's a big city. There's a lot of issues, and I always think that there is some work. I also understand, you know, the flip side, that, you know, we can spend more time in subcommittees, and we're being pressed for time. There is a lot of work being done in the subcommittees, and that's a good thing because they're a thorough discussion. Again, they're all televised. I happen to think we probably need more space in, you know, we had spoken of this in the past, to have the mayor's reception room wired so that can broadcast too, because part of it is we've got planning board, you've got ZBA, so many other, you know, between subcommittees, this room is being utilized quite a bit, and we do schedule the subcommittees a little bit later, particularly I know, say for the flood subcommittee, because people want to come to the meetings, and a lot of them have to work. So I understand the point. Maybe I'm old school. I just think we have to meet regularly, and the people expect that, and that's a good thing because people are tuning in. So I won't support this, but I understand it. But we'll have to see what happens. But I do think it's good to keep the people in touch.
If I may, I'd like to just comment on this motion. Motion has its advantages and disadvantages. First of all, if the council does not incorporate that off Tuesday night and utilize that night strictly for subcommittee issues, you're losing what you're trying to accomplish. You must have those subcommittee meetings and fulfill that open void. And there, the public can weigh right in and watch those subcommittee meetings. It seems on a regular basis now, we have lengthy subcommittee meetings on the night of a council meeting. And many times when I come up to the podium, manager said, this has been changed, we're gonna do this, do that. And I don't have time really to catch my breath. It's bam. And if you feel as though that the public deserves more, they deserve more to the council meetings, then amend the month of June, July, August, September, October. Meet every week then. 5 months out of the year, we meet every other week. And on another aspect, the 3 councilors asked the law department for a report. Has anyone been up to the law department lately? They don't take a break. They're going constantly. So those reports, they have to automatically start trying to get those reports out for the manager, and they're working with a lot of other department heads as well. So I will support the motion to send it to the Rules Subcommittee and get some information. And, but once again, if the council doesn't utilize that Tuesday night you have off, then you're really not accomplishing anything. You're missing that Tuesday night, and that's what should happen. And motion to send this to the Rules Subcommittee by Council Martin, second by Council Arman. No? Okay. Okay. You want to vote on this tonight? Okay. Any other discussion? Excuse me? Go ahead.
Just, it would have to go to the Rules Subcommittee, because in order to act on this, you would first need a report from the Rules Subcommittee in writing, and then also, in order to act on any rule change, the rule has to be before each and every councilor for at least 1 week prior to action on that rule. So it does have to go to the Rules Subcommittee.
I'll make that motion.
Councilman Milonazo?
I'll make that motion to send it to the Rules
Motion by
Subcommittee.
Councilman Milonazo, send this to the Rules Subcommittee, seconded by Councilor Martin. Roll call.
Councilor Elliott,
Can I get clarity? It has to go to the subcommittee?
Where does it say that?
Rules Subcommittee.
Why?
It doesn't have to go, but if you, in the sense that you can vote not to send it there, and it would die. If you want to act on it, my understanding was the council wanted to act on it this evening. And my point is that in order to act on it in the affirmative, you would need the following things. 1, you would need a report from the Rules Subcommittee, and 2, you would need the actual proposed language before each councilor 1 week prior to action on it. So before you...
We need that language. We need that language to know what we're voting on. I mean, I'll vote to send it to the subcommittee, but
Roll
that's
call,
about it.
please.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Arman
Based on
Mercia.
the solicitor's report, yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. And Councilor Lindsay, you're going to be reelected then. Don't worry about that.
Mr. Mayor, could, through you to the city manager, I want to have an opinion from you when we weigh this issue out. I want to see just what you think about it. Or do you want to comment now or you don't?
I'll
You
wait.
wait for the sub...
I think the manager wanted us to amend it to meet once a month.
Well, before we ask for suspension of the rules, the manager's agenda this evening, 10 minutes. The subcommittee reports was the bulk of the meeting. And once again, if we don't utilize that Tuesday night that we have off, the people can tune in and watch the subcommittee meetings. You can have 3 subcommittee meetings that Tuesday night. Then come in with a good report, give everyone a chance to speak at that microphone and offer their views. I would like to entertain a motion to suspend the rules by Council Broderick, seconded by Council Elliott, for the sole purpose of giving Trinity Financial a chance to present their architectural designs in Hamilton Canal and
Mr. Mayor, while they're getting set up, if I could just comment, I happened to go to the presentation that Trinity made on Saturday morning to a group of people from, of the public. They were on a rainy Saturday morning at 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock, almost 4 hours. I estimate over 100 people who were very excited to see this plan. And I think the folks from Trinity did a very good job in soliciting input from members of the public and trying to come up with a plan that would get buy-in from those people that were interested. And so I think for those reasons, I applaud the manager for bringing them here tonight and share this with the council. I know they did put on a brief presentation for councilors, but not everybody was able to attend that.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a good thing for them to be here to share it with the rest of the council and also with the members of the public who weren't there on Saturday. But it really was very exciting to see so many people interested in this project on a cold winter morning.
I just have a question. Is this going to take 4 hours?
No, no.
I should have had the gentleman come before we went to the agenda, but I thought the agenda would go swiftly.
Thank you.
Councilor Mercia?
Mr. Mayor, I received a call from Jim Keefe some time back, and he said that he reminded us about Saturdays. I didn't get the message until after Saturday, so, but he also said on the message that they were going to meet again on Thursday evening at Cobblestones. What we're seeing now, is that what we're going to learn at Cobblestones, or is this something?
That was last.
Oh, it was last Thursday. Oh.
Last Thursday,
Oh,
correct.
I see, okay, thanks. I would have been there Thursday.
And I attended the meeting of Cobblestones, and I was extremely impressed. And one of the things I was impressed with is a reconfiguration of the Lord Overpass. And I am delighted to hear that. But with no further ado, I didn't have, it was a motion to suspend the rules by Council Broderick, seconded by Council Elliott. All in favor of the suspension signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Suspensions are in order. It's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Manager, and councilors. It's a pleasure to be here this evening, and it will not take 4 hours. This was basically an hour-and-a-half presentation followed by a lot of question and answer, and I've done my best to give you the Reader's Digest version tonight, so I'm trying to cut it down.
Okay.
First, I'd like to offer apologies from Jim Keefe, president of the company. He, unfortunately, or fortunately, he's in Prague. Unfortunately, he's chaperoning 80 high school students, so, you know, we can't feel totally sorry for him. But my name is Hank Keating. I'm Associate for Design, Construction, and Permitting for Trinity Financial. And I'm going to give you an update. I'm going to switch over here now to the presentation. I'd like to start by saying that this was our third visioning session for the Hamilton Canal. And as has been indicated earlier, all the sessions have been very well attended, with 100+ people, with full attention from everybody throughout the duration. Some of these meetings have gone for 6 hours. And I would have to say, in complimenting the City of Lowell, that this has been one of the most extraordinary participatory processes that Trinity has been involved in. So it's to your credit, it's been great. At the second charrette, there was a strong community preference for what we called option one. We had two different options that demonstrated different ways of approaching the urban planning and organization of the site. And after some strong workshop sessions, people came back with a lot of comments and preferred option one. That option was going to have, described as having 20,000 to 50,000 square feet of retail, 150,000 to 300,000 square feet of proposed office commercial, and between 500 and 800 housing units. During the last two charrettes, these were the primary comments that we got back from the public. First of all, people wanted a critical mass of commercial activity. There was a very strong theme that they want this development to produce jobs and commercial activity adjacent to the downtown. There was a lot of discussion about parking with the kind of inherent recognition that if you're going to generate a lot of commercial activity, you're going to generate a lot of need for parking. And then obviously the third point is similar, traffic and circulation. If you're going to generate this activity, you have to have a way to handle it so that it doesn't become a problem, but it can be facilitated. Another main theme was downtown connections. This is actually more than connection. The real issue here is to make sure that what is done on this site is an economic benefit to the downtown and doesn't in any way detract from the downtown. The worst possible thing would be for the Hamilton Canal to become a raging success at the expense of downtown. We recognize that would be the worst possible outcome, and we're committed to avoiding that. So we're looking for, good economic impacts. And that depends upon vehicular pedestrian connections to the downtown so that there can be an integration between the two. There was further discussion about neighborhood connections, meaning to the Acre, to the Jam neighborhood, to the Lower Highlands. How are those neighborhoods going to be pulled in and connected to this area? There was a lot of discussion about affordable housing, about affordable artist housing, about an arts component for the development, and then a lot of discussion about the National Park Service, integration of this project with their programs, with a lot of the property that they own or control along the edges of the canals slated for parks. And we've been working in conjunction with the Park Service and the Lowell Historic Board. Springboarding off of the desire for a strong commercial component for this project, we went back after the second charrette and said, what would happen if we took the area north of the Pawtucket Canal, in images here being 5, 6, 7, and 8, if we were to take all of those parcels and make them all commercial R&D space? Could we generate? We said, wow, we could generate 600,000 square feet of commercial space. We were excited by that, but we came back down to reality quickly because we've done our research and we know that for commercial R&D space in downtown Lowell to compete with, frankly, the 495 office parks, we have to compete at their level. We have to be able to provide 4 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet of office space, which means we'd have to produce 2,400 parking spaces to complement that 600,000 square feet of potential office space, and that simply wasn't viable on the site. So we then had to kind of start working a balancing act backwards. How much parking can we support and how much commercial can that support? So now technically I'm showing you 2 programs of build out, Program A and Program B. I'm going to focus on Program A because the differences are very minor and they have to do with how we're submitting this to MEPA at the state level. It's not worth our time here. But we've settled upon a program that produces up to 423,000 square feet of office commercial, 54,800 square feet of retail, 766,000 square feet or 600 to 23 units of housing. That produces a total of 1.2 million square feet, and then we've got parking in addition to that, and this is structured parking because the site there's not enough site area to produce this type of density and have surface parking lots. So we have another 600,000 square feet of structured parking. So we're talking about a project in the end that's going to be 1.8 to 1.9 million square feet, including 1,900 roughly parking spaces, and the overall build out for this site will be running between $600 and $800 million. And before I actually get off those impacts, that 400,000 square feet of commercial we expect will produce well over 1,000 permanent jobs when we complete the build out. We obviously also believe that that commercial build out and the residential build out will have a great economic benefit to the adjacent downtown. So this is the concept plan that has evolved since the last charrette, and I'm going to quickly go on to some of the major connections here. Actually, I'm going to go back for a second. One of the things that came out of the charrette, or the second charrette, much to our surprise, was the suggestion that Jackson Street be connected across Dutton Street to Fletcher. And, you know, frankly, when somebody in the audience suggested that, we were like, wow, that's a bold suggestion. And we took note of it and kind of thought in the back of our mind, well, I don't know. But it turns out that it has tremendous benefits, both to this district, to the downtown, and to the solution to the Lord Overpass, which I'll go into in a minute. So this is now quickly going through the connections. So this is a major new connection that's being proposed at a signalized intersection. The Fletcher Street will come through, become Jackson, and run all the way over to Center Street, but also serve as a primary entrance to the site. This is a quick artist's view of that potentially. This is the end of Jackson Street now. This is the Revere Street Bridge that crosses the Hamilton, and this would be that extension out to Dutton Street here and Fletcher beyond. This is a quick rendering we did to demonstrate the potential of this to the city, but also, more importantly, to the trial court. This is just a block diagram of what their facility, where it might be placed on the site. We've had extensive meetings with the trial court representatives and the state because they had some concerns about this, but they seem, at this point in time, to be convinced that it's actually a benefit. So the other connections that are then made are Revere Street crosses Jackson, comes through, and comes all the way through the site where there are no streets now, cuts across a new canal crossing, and then ties into what we would call an extended Broadway right across Dutton. So now we've got a connection right to a new bridge connection, and that becomes another primary entrance to the site. And then we have this connection that runs all the way down a new street here that's set up to align with the porticos that run through the Market Mills and out to Market Street. Then very quickly, the blue overlays additional bridges and pedestrian connections because we're interested not just in what the car can do here, but what the pedestrian can do. And we've got multiple connections across the Hamilton Canal and others across the Pawtucket, including one that goes right across the swamp lots that will facilitate pedestrian movement in and around and through this district and back to the downtown. This is a quick diagram of the kind of open space that will fall out of this plan. You see a lot of it is linear. That's because these are right-of-ways that have already been reserved by the National Park Service through the state as canal walks. So they will be developed as we go forward. The canal walk along Jackson Street, the one that runs around the point of land out here, and then the canal walk along Pawtucket and up the Merrimack. In addition to that, we will be developing some additional green space out at the point, and then some right in the center of the district here upon entrance, and then one of a different size and type within what we call the mill yard of new and rehab buildings in that portion of the site. We talked a lot about, you know, what might this be like? We haven't designed all this yet. We're just at an early point of conceptualizing and permitting, early permitting. So some of the important things are going to be crossings. This is the existing Revere Street crossing right now. Clearly, it can't, in the long run, service the new development. This is a street that's intended for two-way traffic, pedestrian traffic, and a trolley. Right now, it's essentially 1.5 lanes. But we think there's great opportunities for the crossings of these canals to be something that's really exciting. Beyond just being functional, we see these as crossings that really announce a new district and make room for pedestrians and carry lighting that can make it exciting and you know, clearly define the pedestrian realm as compared to the automotive realm. So we think there's great potential there. We're looking at the opportunities for new imagery. We're not saying that we're going to design buildings that look like this, but we're saying that this is an opportunity to recreate a brand new image for this whole area, and we have to be cognizant of that. and so we can produce something that we're proud of.
Excuse me, Mr. Keating, if I could just interject there. I know that this is a far-fetched thing, but when you show these few pictures, all I keep thinking of is gondolas in the water.
Would you like some?
I really would, because this city of Lowell is the little Venice of the world. And I see gondolas there. I see cement platforms where people are eating a side of it, and people are going from place to place on a gondola. I don't know. We have a great potential here in the city with canals, and we're not even using it. I don't even understand why we are not using it. I think it's a waste. But go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I can assure you that our view is coherent with yours. We fully intend to use the canals. They are a major asset to this site.
That's a draw to this city. We don't have an ocean like Newburyport, but we have canals that are just sitting there idle, not doing anything, and I think something should be done.
Well,
That's just my
we are with you. We are with you. That's exactly what our plan promotes. Now, very quickly, running through some more imagery. We have an opportunity here to match new and old. We have some buildings on the site that are historic and need to be saved, but obviously, in addition to that, the whole fabric of Lowell has a lot of history. But we need to take advantage of this to do a good blending of new and old, and this is, kind of an image that speaks to that. These are other images where you've seen old areas that have been integrated with new contemporary construction in a way that really makes both of them flourish well. In addition to that, again, these are not proposed buildings. These are buildings that we're proposing might be models for the way we would think about introducing contemporary architecture to the site. We think that this site is the opportunity for putting a new face on a major gateway into Lowell as part of the 21st century. I mean, this is an opportunity to look forward and not simply look back. Okay, this is the overview of the site. I'm going to walk through parcel by parcel. This, to orient you, this is the Hamilton Canal. This is the Pawtucket Canal running down the middle, and there's the Merrimack along Dutton Street here. And this is the site for the new trial court. So that's Jackson Street through, and this is King Street, and then we got Revere Street running in behind this building. And we refer to this area kind of as the island in the middle between there. So going quickly parcel by parcel. Parcel number 1 is on Revere Street with a relocated King Street behind it. We see that as being roughly a 6-story office building, which we would build in our schedule at a time when it would open roughly when the trial court opens, so that it can be a resource for trial court related activities in office space. In addition to the office space, and we show this not as a design again, but as an image. It could be something like this. That's about the right size and scale for the building we're describing there. But we think that the interface between it and the trial court could be something like this. King Street might be a small drop-off area. There should be, outdoor cafes in the summertime, retail that supports, lunch activity for the court. And we've actually had a discussion with the court about the idea that they shouldn't, for example, go in there and put in a lunchroom. We want these people to come out and interact and spend their money throughout the district. So parcels 2, 3, and 4 are out on the point. There was interesting input from the last charrette here too, because the last time we showed this, we had a building, one large building that was right at the end of this block and was kind of an end point to this, and people said, and we agreed in the end, it should be split. There should be 2 buildings so that the view corridor through to the Swamp Blocks area was maintained, and we've done that. We have a park out at the point. We have what we call our signature building out here. This is like a 15-story building, and then we're back down to typical 6-story buildings that match the scale of the other facilities. This is a quick section through that. You see parking Underneath, you see the signature building rising up. There's the swamp blocks themselves. And to Councilor Mercier's comment, right in this area, along this edge, that stripe means retail. We see, for example, a destination restaurant right here that would have patios outside and would be overlooking the swamp blocks, because that's a fantastic canal resource. This is a quick view of what that might look like. This is taken from the visitor center looking down. That's a potential look of a signature building, might take on the nature of a curve along the canal edge. This is a building I'll refer to coming up, but again, we're looking for a contemporary feel. It might be something like this. This is a residential building, so you're seeing, you know, the possibility of balconies and that type of thing. Could be along the lines of this. Contemporary, something where on this building we're actually looking also forward to the idea of wind power on the top of it because it's high enough to support that. Parcel 5, we're reserving it for up to a 450-seat professional theater space. In the alternative, if we can't find a way to work with a local group and get that funded, we would have it as a residential site, and that's why you see Program A, Program B. But our highest hope is that we can make that work as a new site for that type of theater space. And here, we're just speaking to the idea that theaters are funny because they tend to be big buildings without a lot of windows, and we're looking at ways of maybe screening it along the canal edge, giving it a scrim, you know, giving it some larger form, but still breaking it down. This could be, you know, high glass entering into a lobby, something like that. We feel like we could manage a massing like that on the corner of that lot. This is a new Revere Street bridge crossing with what we show as a new trolleyway running through there. This is parcel 6 and 7, the Appleton Mills. This is our first phase, which we hope to have under construction in roughly 14 months from now. It essentially is the rehab of the Appleton Mills. It's a drastic rehab because there's not much left of the Appleton Mills. But we are looking at this as 116, I believe, housing units, and then in parcel 6, about 46 affordable artist live-work spaces. This is a quick view of what we have to work with there. We're going to be saving the exterior facades along the canal and then working with this opening that comes through the building from Jackson Street all the way through, and that becomes an important connector. This is a cross-section of the site right through there, so that this is the Hamilton Canal, this is the Appleton building right on the edge of it, and then you would come through that bridge as shown here and walk right through to a new bridge crossing across the Pawtucket. And these are buildings which I'm going to go on to describe in a minute. This is a quick rendering of looking into the new Mill Yard Courtyard. So this is the back of the Appleton, and this is new stuff across the way. That's the new crust I'm referring to across the way from the Appleton. This is interesting because along the canal edge, the Pawtucket Canal, there are these ruin walls which the National Park Service is interested in maintaining, and we feel we can make that work, and it works something like this, where we would rehab these to the extent that they're solid and reliable, and then we would build new units sitting back from that, and these would become part of balconies and private spaces that are associated with the units on the lower level of this. This is a quick view of the Freudenberg building in the foreground that would also be rehabbed. And this is a quick view of what it might be like if you were on one of those upper balconies looking down into the void between the new building and that ruin wall. So we get the benefit of maintaining the canal edge from the canal side, but also can integrate this as a real kind of exciting, interesting feature for the new housing that gets developed along that edge. building, parcel 10 is the Freudenberg Building rehab, and this is simply to point out that's what it looks like today, but it's because it's all been infilled, and effectively when we're done, it will look like this. That's basically its historic nature. Parcel 11 along the north side of the Pawtucket Canal, a residential building that would curve along the new canal walk that we'd be running on the north side of the Pawtucket. This is a view of it. Again, we're seeing it across the canal. This would be it, and so this is Southern Light here, and we're looking at a very contemporary building with a lot of, passive energy features built into it, sunscreens, light shelves, solar panels. It's a tremendous exposure for that, so it's kind of a great combination of a canal walk, a southern exposure, and a water view. And it kind of would shape up a little bit like this, where you've got the same condition. You've got buildings right up on the canal on the south side, so not getting south light, and then stepping back from the canal, picking up the southern light. It's be similar to that in layout. In between the new Broadway coming through, we envision two kind of district park areas. We're calling it Park Square. And these would have, the nature of these type of spaces, a fountain, we're looking toward a fountain in one of these, a lot of seating areas supporting through pedestrian traffic, commercial space surrounding it, an open vista once you get in here, so that this is not simply a continuous canyon of building walls. You would enter the site, it would open up, and then you'd go forward and do crossings. So we think that it's a very nice relief. This parcel, this is a parking garage. This is what it takes to support that commercial space that we were talking about, which is one of our priorities. This is a 980 space garage that handles the spaces for 68 units in this building, 166 spaces, replacement spaces for the National Park Service, because parcels 15 and 16 are not part of the land that the city owns or controls. It's owned by the National Park Service, and we're in discussions with them, and they're in agreement that they should be developed. These are some images of parking garages. How do you take a parking garage at that scale and make it feel exciting and interesting? You put retail in the base, has been done here, and some of these facades, we're actually looking at the idea of doing a full green facade on the entire length of it. These are the two main commercial parcels along Dutton Street. We think that they can, well, this is the view from the inside of that. That's that district park area I was talking about, looking back. This is Broadway coming through. We're looking at the potential for some connections between these buildings, overhead bridge connections between those commercial buildings and the parking structure as a convenience for users. We think it's interesting because there's a lot of precedent for such overhead bridges in Lowell. Here you see a potential view of that. That's Broadway coming in. That's a potential pedestrian connection between the commercial buildings, and there would be another one tucked in behind here to the garage. That's something to, once again, to give you a sense of scale. This is, might be the type of scale you'd see along Dutton Street as a commercial building. Okay. The mayor's favorite portion of the evening is the Lord Overpass. The existing Lord, I'm going to do this, I'm an architect, we had a professional consultant doing this presentation, so forgive my brief view of it, but Rob Woodland of Woodland Designs has been working at this extremely hard. He will tell you that the Lord Overpass today is an extremely dysfunctional intersection that is way beyond its capacity to handle the traffic that it's put through it today. And it's primarily because it's a very narrow geometry. You have 100 yards, say, between each one of these legs, and you've got a traffic light at each intersection, and you have a one-way system that means that for anybody to make these movements, they always have to go through 2 or 3 lights, and it's just a recipe for gridlock. So that's the challenge. This is the facts. The facts are that when we have built out the entire development and the court has built out its area, we're looking at a 25.8% increase into the traffic into the Lord Overpass, and Rob Woodland would tell you that means it's a broken intersection. It won't work. So he found two major ways to help funnel traffic away from the Lord Overpass. The best thing we can do there is get traffic to go on its way before it gets there. So this is a reconfigured Fletcher Street coming across where the bridge now goes over that canal in a slightly different way and making a through connection to the new Jackson Street extension. So now people can come from the acre, from this edge, and they can go straight through, or they can take a right, or they can take a left. In addition to that, Rob's reorganizing all the lanes and stacking capability here so that he can facilitate like 5 times the number of left turn movements. This is a very highly demanded movement, but it's very inefficiently set up now. So Rob is convinced that he's solved this problem so we can handle all of those traffic increases in this area very well. In addition to that, one of the most important things about this is it offers pedestrian connections across Dutton/Thorndike Street, something that doesn't exist today unless you go up to Broadway or way down the other end. And we know just how desired that is, because if any of us were to walk out here on this point of land today, we would find what looked like a bunch of rabbit paths. They're people paths, and they go right up to the guardrail, and then they stop because people are jumping the guardrail and risking their lives crossing this intersection because it's such a desire line. So this actually produces a safe, traffic-controlled crossing of this intersection, and it's extremely valuable not only to everybody that lives over on this side, but to the National Park Service. They've been working on a plan for 10 years to build an overhead bridge crossing of this Thorndike Street right here, and that would have involved a handicap ramp that would probably have been 300 yards long in order to get up to the top. If you're going to have a stair up, you have to have a handicap ramp up. It would be incredibly expensive, incredibly inefficient, frankly not very attractive, and not well used. Nobody likes to use those type of crossings. This solves that problem also. The other relief valve is to extend Revere Street through from Middlesex to Appleton. This is something that was foreseen in the JAM plan. By doing that, we can create a secondary entrance to the site that can be accessed without going into the full Lord Overpass. And this is the new design. It integrates that connector through to Fletcher Street, Jackson, and you can see here that if you enter this, you can take a right now on Appleton. Appleton becomes two-way, and you take a right and then a left on Revere and in. So we now have 2 ways in and out of this new major site from the south that can be accomplished without interacting with the full Lord Overpass. In addition to that, he's simplifying the Lord Overpass by making it a single pair of legs instead of 4, and this way he can coordinate these traffic signals in a way that he can push traffic through at a much better rate. And very quickly, some of the implications for that are there has to be an alternate route to make the connection to Middlesex Street West, because that leg has to be taken out in order to make this scheme work. And that connection would be coming across Chelmsford to Westford to Grand and across. It's not a huge movement that's required, but it's needed, and this leg will work to accomplish that. And then this are a lot of the pedestrian connections that get facilitated by that new design. These are connections that take you back to the Gallagher terminal. And finally, this is the route, that same Jackson Street extension. We're looking at that as the route. We're providing for the trolley line to come through our site all the way across on new crossings on the islands, and then extend down through Revere Street over to Appleton, down Favor, across, and then into the terminal. This is challenging, it's big. we are committed to doing everything in our power to help facilitate moving the agenda forward for a complete trolley system that not just links our site to the Gallagher terminal, but links the trolley out to the baseball park, to the Saugus Arena, to Lowell University. And it's not the trolley system you know today. It's a trolley system that is run like a regular public transit trolley system. So that's the essence of the presentation that we made, and it was very well received as far as we know. So I will entertain any questions if you may have any.
Mr. Keating, thank you very much for that excellent presentation. I saw the presentation on the cobblestones, and not only the Lord Overpass it impresses me, but everything I've seen. And any comments from the council?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Thank you, Mayor. I was actually at Cobblestones also and saw the presentation. I think they're doing a fantastic job. I was just wondering if it hasn't been in effect yet, could we get some type of committee together with some local architects to work with Trinity? I know they're doing a good job, and you know I've talked to Jack Sullivan that works downtown. Jeff Cook is downtown, and maybe get some local businessmen and also some residents, professional residents that live downtown, and work with them and see if there's any flaws that are going that they could pick out, and maybe work with them a couple of times a month and bring it to a subcommittee. So, like I said, in case there is any type of flaws, you mentioned Fletcher Street, that intersection. That's definitely something that has to be addressed. I mean, if somebody tries to cross that intersection, they're taking a life in their hands. There's no question about it. And the overpass, it definitely needs some work. As long as it doesn't turn out like the Drum Hill overpass. I go on that overpass. I still don't know what lane to get into. My wife yells at me all the time, you know. So, yeah, as long as it doesn't turn out like that, I have no problem with it. But if we can work on some type of committee to work with Trinity, I'm sure they won't be offended, and get these professional people that were willing to volunteer and maybe come up with some ideas. And maybe they can't come up with any ideas. Maybe the Trinity group has touched everything they can possibly touch, but I think it's worth an effort and worth a shot to do that, and maybe we can do something.
We do have... Go ahead.
Thank you. I certainly, this whole process has been about public input, and I would urge, if there are people in the community, professionals or otherwise, who have not yet been involved in the public process, that they ought to get involved quickly, because this is moving very quickly now. We've done 3 out of 5 public charrettes, and we're moving on to start formalizing this. So if there are people in the community who've not taken advantage of the multiple sessions we've had, please get the word out to them to get involved right away.
Okay, but I know you had some public charrettes that you said, and the people did get involved, the public. But these are professional people that maybe can put some input onto this process or program that we're doing. That's my only concern, and I believe me, I don't want to hold anything up. I want to get this thing going, and if we have to do something right away, and let them take a look at it, whether it takes a couple of weeks or a month to take a look at it, I think that's important before we say, okay, this is good. I've looked at it for an hour the other day, and I looked at it now for another hour. I mean, to me, I can't say, yeah, you've got a great plan here. I mean, it looks good, but is it good? I don't know. I mean, it would make me feel a lot more comfortable if we could do something with that. And I'm not sure if I get the support, but that's just my opinion. Thank you.
I just want to say, Council, we do have an economic subcommittee, and I believe you're a member of that.
Right.
And maybe the economic subcommittee could address some of those issues you brought forward.
Yeah, we can invite some of the professional people that work downtown and maybe meet with them at the same time and spend a couple hours, 2 or 3 hours that one night, and maybe it will really help us out and see if we can really be enlightened what is actually happening there. You know, like I said, it looks good, but is there any flaws? I don't have enough time to see that. You know, so
sometimes the picture's worth 1,000 words, and from what I've seen, it looks
great.
Fantastic.
But when we really look at a plan and blueprints and things like that, does it work? And is it what's supposed to be there.
There's a lot to be done in order to accomplish.
No, there's no question about it. There's no doubt.
Council Broderick.
Thank you. First off, looks tremendous. I think it's a huge, we've been talking about this since before I got on the council, and it's just a huge undertaking. And the whole public-private partnership and participation, getting into what Councilor Kazanjian just mentioned. I assume that these have been open, the charrettes, whatever you want to call them. It's a public input process, in that I hope, anyway, a lot of the professionals, especially the ones located downtown, would have come forward and expressed, and maybe that's where you got some of these ideas, because certainly we want them to participate, just as, you know, the citizen and neighborhood groups and public safety and everybody in the city. I mean, I'm not the person to critique this. It looks, you know, the theory, it looks tremendous, and some of the ideas you have and the way you put it together, I have to say that I'm glad the manager brought the recommendation forward, and we've moved forward with Trinity. I think it's just been a tremendous job, and Mr. Keefe has been you know, great to work with all along and keeping people up to speed. And I couldn't make it last Thursday night. I coach my daughter, so I couldn't come, but appreciate you coming out yet again. And this is last question. When will it be done?
As I indicated, we're looking for a phase 1 to begin in roughly 14 months. We have a build-out schedule that takes us out 10 years. And whether or not it will take a full 10 years, we can't say today, but it's a prudent schedule.
Yeah, that's aggressive, yeah. Very good, thank you.
Council Rita Mercier, and then Council Lindsay, and then Council Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Keating, this was a very exciting presentation. I'm excited because we have 15 acres of land that we can refurbish into something of greatness. And long before Trinity Financial was in the picture, I heard comments from people that live downtown, because downtown is not just business. Downtown is actually a neighborhood of many people that just live and walk around the downtown. They don't have the wherewithal to go off to malls or here or there. And one thing that was quite evident from the discussion of many years ago, many times, was the fact that they would be interested to have a theater downtown so that they could just, within walking distance, go there, so that they wouldn't have to get on a bus or wait for a relative to take them off to the cinema. So I think this is a good idea, and when I saw that that could be a possibility, that would be a good thing for many people that are on fixed incomes that live downtown. So I thought that would be nice to have if we could.
Council Lindsay.
Yes, thank you for that presentation. It's the second time we've viewed it, and it certainly is very exciting. I think that Councilor Kazanjian makes a good point, that if our local architects who are familiar with the area are willing to spend a little bit of time looking at this plan, it would be a great thing for us. And I can't help but thinking back to the beautiful schools that we built in Lowell, and I watched my kids grow up and play basketball in the gymnasiums, of which the bleachers don't open because it was an architectural flaw. So, you know, if they could pick up, or they happen to pick up something like that, I don't think we can be too thorough, and I think it's a good idea that they get involved, or would want to be involved, and who knows what would come of it.
Council Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of comments regarding having local professionals involved. And again, Councilor Kazanjian did mention a couple of people who I have a great deal of respect for. I guess just looking at the whole public process going forward, I guess I would just, with all due respect to Councilor Kazanjian, caution him about mentioning names publicly, only because it could be an opportunity for these particular individuals, who I believe did participate in the first charrette. At least one of them did, because this is going to be a long process. We're talking about a build-out to 2021. And there could be opportunities for those local architects to actually be involved in some of these projects going forward. So again, and I hope they do, and I hope they do. And that's not to say they can't come to the next to Charettes and offer their input. And also remember that we're going to be working with the National Park Service architects going forward. And I have a great deal of respect for Mr. Keating and his staff in putting this work together. I did see it at Cobblestones as well. I'm very impressed with what they've brought forward. I'm looking forward to having an opportunity to actually look at the land disposition agreement that I believe will come back before the council at some particular point. Whether or not that should or needs to go before the Economic Development Subcommittee, obviously my colleagues will make that decision, and we'll be happy to take a look at that. So I guess my question to the manager is, where are we with the land disposition agreement? I know you talk about having a term sheet that's been negotiated, and we're obviously starting to put the MEPA documents together and move forward.
Well, the first step was getting the term sheet done, and that's we've hammered that out now. And credit to Trinity and their team that they have moved forward so expeditiously to get to this point. I will tell you that in just to their credit, in talking to the other firms that we did talk to, there wasn't the sense of urgency that we saw that Trinity really wanted to get in here and get this project moving right away. And the whole charrette process has certainly been evidence of that. And they've put the resources towards this. In particular, their traffic engineer has put a tremendous amount of time and effort into this, and their engineering people and their architect. I mean, Icon Architect, and I understand what Councilor Kazanjian is mentioning, and certainly I think that particularly as we go into the form-based zoning part of the charrette process, that's a great opportunity for the local architects to participate in this process if they have ideas of what the building should look like. Icon Architect was one of the big selling points for us with Trinity, in fact, because they are an award-winning national architectural firm that has done billions of dollars worth of construction work around the country. And but I think that certainly there's a local flavor that some of the local architects see. They should really participate in that process as we go into the form-based zoning. But with regards to the land disposition agreement, now that we've got the term sheet done, and that's all chronicled in the memorandum I gave to you tonight, we're now getting into the more nuts and bolts of actually hammering out the deal with the land disposition agreement. And I anticipate that will probably be wrapped up in the next couple of months, and we'll be able to come in and bring that to you, to the Economic Development Subcommittee and to the Council.
Councilor Lindsay?
I'm very impressed also at how much free advertising Cobblestones is getting out of this meeting, and I think we should start charging or getting some royalties from Scotty Platt.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just mentioned a couple of names. I mean, we can use all the architects that work in the city, get some landscape architects, and get some professional people involved. I'm not saying they're not doing a great job. They're showing buildings that possibly could look like this. Well, maybe these architects could come up with some solid ideas that work in the city day in and day out. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. You got a professional architect firm, yeah, he's probably out of Chicago or wherever the case, or Boston, but he's not working in Lowell. I mean, you get that Lowell individual that knows the Lowell buildings and what they look like and what the people want here. I think it's going to work out great, but, and I'm not trying to single out just a couple of individuals. We'll use them all. I just feel it's important to jump, instead of just jumping on board and say, okay, yeah, it looks great. Pictures do look good, but let's get some professional advice, and if we can get it for nothing, why not?
Okay. Councilor Milanazzo, who's the chair of the Economic Subcommittee, could convene a meeting and discuss that at length and see if we can entice or ask some local architects to be involved. And yes, Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment as well, but it is, the process is moving along quite nicely, and it's an exciting project, knowing that we're getting closer every day, that 14-month build-out time. We can start becoming enthusiastic, especially in light of looking to dispose of that piece of property that we bonded for. But my question was, there seems to be a fair amount of is it public works projects, bridges, road reconfigurations? Where does that money come from? Is that something we're going to have to solicit the state? Is that something that's part of the development plan and/or scheme in terms of financing?
Yeah, you're correct. There's a lot of public infrastructure. When you look at the needs for the Lord Overpass, number one, all the way down through all the new streets, the new city streets that will weave their way through the development area, and the new bridges, it's a tremendous amount of public infrastructure investment. And yes, we are looking to the state to fund this, and we've been working with Senator Pangiotakis on a bill that is sponsoring for $4.7 million to immediately raise the funds for all the development of the plans for all these intersections. And we'll also move toward partially funding some of the build-out. And then we would be looking to go back to the legislature for further support in getting those systems built out. And we've integrated that process into that schedule we've suggested.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Councilor Cassandra?
Mr. Manager, is it possible to get a breakdown of what Trinity's gonna put into this project, what the state's gonna put into this project, and also what the city is gonna put in this project? So we know, yeah, we say a $500 or $600 million project, but what is actually coming from the city, what's coming from the state, and what is Trinity put into this project? And what's the land purchase gonna cost, and what have we paid out to the for the land purchase? If we can get that broken down, it really helped me out somewhat.
Sure.
To what's going on.
I certainly think, Council, that we can put something together like that. I mean, some of this is speculation, but, I mean, we know what we paid.
It doesn't have to be right to the
we-
penny, as long as I have an idea.
we can
Okay,
do
yeah,
that.
what's going on? Sure. Thank you.
Okay, before we adjourn, I just let the council know that Manager Lynch and Adam Backey, Councilors Kazanjian, Martin, Milanazzo, and the mayor were in attendance at like a little ribbon-cutting ceremony at the garage with the retail space and so forth. And I'll tell you, it's really nice, really, really nice. And the Fred Faust and Joanne Souza and so forth are working tirelessly to bring some people in, but I think it's gonna be excellent. And it's gonna be, without the parking garage, we would never have that, believe me. And so, with that said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Martin. Thank you. A great meeting.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Nice job.
Thank you.